very much for participating in the table setting event. Everybody did a very good job. Just be aware of the thumbnail rule. Don't put your silverware all crazy, you know, high. And also, sorry, not to pick on anybody, but don't put them under the plate either. All right. So one quick note.
Oh, where does it go? Under the table.
When you're setting chairs at a table, never set it like this. That is very ugly and you don't want it to look like that. You want the chair to come right to the edge of the linen, but not pushing it in. So make sure that when you set the chairs, when you're setting the table, make sure that each chair looks like that before the event begins. So that's pretty much the basics of, you know, setting the table. So now let's talk about service. When we're doing dinner service and we're, you know, coming through with all this food and we have to feed each other, or not each other.
That's a really unique event.
That is anyway, what you want to do is there's going to be teams of folks at each event serving. There's going to be, you know, 2 teams generally, depending on the size of the event. There might be 3, but it's going to be teams of 3 people. One person is going to be a very strong person who can carry a large tray full of, you know, enough entrees to serve the entire table. And that's going to be the food runner, and then there's going to be 2 servers in each team. So the way that it works is that all 3 folks approach the table. You know, the food runner has the food, and then we have a tray stand. The food will be set on the tray stand, and then the servers will then proceed to serve the table. The rule of thumb with serving a table is that you always serve ladies first. Even if you have to skip a guy to get to a lady, that's what is proper service. So, you know, when you approach the table, you always serve the lady that's closest to the kitchen. It could be also the oldest lady at the table, but not to kind of, you know, ladies don't like that. I mean, okay, so if we're talking country club service, you always serve the oldest lady at the table first.
Her wife, you know she's the oldest one.
Okay, but say this is not that event. You serve the lady that's closest to the kitchen. So the very first lady you approach at the table, coming from the kitchen, that's who you serve first. And then you go, you know, to the left and serve everybody. You always serve, you always serve from the left with your left hand. So if this is a person here, sitting here, I always serve them from the left with my left hand. And when they're finished and I come around and clear, I clear from the right with my right hand. Now, drinks are always served and taken away with the right hand because they're always on the right side of the guest. So, pitcher, right hand, serve, there you go. That's how you do beverages and plates. All right. So, would you guys be my guests talking about gossip over here?
Talking about gossip.
All right. So, say you're at an event and you're at a wedding, and you know you've got 2 people that are sitting very, very close together, and they're in very close conversation as you approach the table to serve the meal. That is really close, girls. So here I am. Here I am. I'm trying to serve Kristen her dish. You say, "Pardon my reach," and then you serve her. And then they can go back to talking about how the bride shouldn't have been wearing white and all that stuff. Another thing that we're really excited to move towards in our seated plated dinners is synchronized service for the head table. So we're going to do we're going to kind of show you a little bit what synchronized service is going to look like.
If you can't see, just kind of stand up and look over this way, because you will.
I'm really
you will need
sorry
to-
that, you know, this is kind of our, so. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, okay, I see. So.
This will all be on YouTube later. Just kidding.
All right. So the head server will always serve the first guest first. So we'll just use the bride, for example. Say we're at a wedding and we always serve the bride first because her dad paid for all the food. You start with her first. So when you come up to the table, everybody, you know, the lead server will stand behind the bride, being person number 1. And then the second server will stand here behind person number 3. The third server will stand behind person number 5, and then the fourth server would stand behind person number 7. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So you always serve with your left hand. So you move over to the even number person now. Transfer your entree over into your left hand. Now, of course, it wouldn't be as choppy as all of that. It would be much more fluid service. But that's kind of what synchronized service looks like. And that would just be in the event that that is the amount of service that we have, that only 4 folks can serve the head table at the same time. In some cases, there will be enough service on the event where each person can be served all at once, because we have 8 servers on an event and all 8 people can be served at once. It really depends on the event, like I said. So that's pretty much the spiel of front of house. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, actually I do about that. So like whenever you're serving the bride, so the other 3 servers have to wait till you set down the plate in front of the bride?
No, we set them all down at the same time. So remember how I told you?
So the first plate goes down, including like the other 3 people as well as the bride. And okay.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if like you had to wait, you know, like whenever.
No, that's the point of synchronized service, that it's all at the same time.
I have a question.
Yes.
What if there are special meal requests? How do you handle that when you're serving a table?
You get your lead. That is the best answer. Usually if there is a special meal request, we will already know ahead of time, and either we will have coordinated with the client who's in charge of the event, with where that person is sitting, or you know what table they are sitting at. So if I know there's going to be a kosher meal at table 10, and you're going to be the server for table 10, I'll make sure to tell you, you have a kosher meal at your table. Be aware, when you find out who that person is, just head to the back and, you know, make sure to grab the kosher meal, and then you'll serve them their kosher meal.
And you want to serve them with the rest of the guests. Especially, there may be, who knows what the issue is, but you don't want them to feel like they're standing out.
Okay, so if when we do have a kosher guest there, he's gonna have to take out his plastic, you know, saran wrap, so we should wait. I mean, he's gonna be doing all that, they're gonna be still eating by now because it's got a lot of wrap to put on.
Well, if I know that table 10, if you know table 10 is going to be served next, okay, your food runner will put 9 entrees on their plate, or on their tray, and the kosher meal. Say that you have 1 kosher meal. So it will all go out with you. The kosher meal will be there. You know, you don't serve them first at that. If you happen to, you know, what you would do is you would approach table 10 and say, I understand we have a kosher meal at this table. If you don't know who specifically it is, if their name tag, a lot of times they'll have the name tag marked with, you know, a K or a V if they're vegan or what have you. If that's not the case, you know, you simply graciously ask, you know, who will be receiving the kosher meal that evening, and then you make sure that when the service comes out, they are served in the correct order as if they were just eating a regular meal.
Okay.
Any other questions? No? Well, thank you. You have now survived the front of house portion of this meeting. And whenever Kristen's ready, I'm going to hand the reins over to her. We're still just keeping on. Isn't she cute? Yeah.
Hello, I'm Kristen. I know most everyone here. But for those of you who don't know me, I'm primarily back of house. However, I do work front of house, suite, and back of house. I'm going to go ahead and cover just some of the things in the manual, the service tip for servers, the hors d'oeuvre service, busing stations, back of house organization, and just some random notes. So starting with service tips for servers, go ahead and imagine that this is your event and your wedding and you are the host. Even if the venue or client are not behaving perfectly, you as the host behave with grace, kindness, and attentive professionalism. Oftentimes the client is stressed out, and that might come across in many different forms, but no matter what, be there to assist the client if needed with a warm smile. In the end, it will pay off, and they will remember how helpful you were during their stressful time. Impress the client and team members by being prepared to go the extra mile, or like I like to say, above and beyond. If a client has an empty glass or a bottle, don't just offer to take their empty glass, but offer to go to the bar and get them another drink. Also try to anticipate the guest's needs. If a guest is holding an empty plate or napkin, offer to take it for them. There's no chewing gum at events, and this is fairly obvious. It's unprofessional and it just looks bad. Cell phones have to be shut off and stored in your bags until the end of the event. Catering leads may have their phones on vibrate in case of emergencies, and calls are only to be taken in the back of house area. Offer to take presents or flowers from guests and put them in a convenient place. Just make yourself available to help in any way that you can. And just moving on to hors d'oeuvre service. It's important to familiarize yourself with the food and beverages being served at the event. Refer to the hors d'oeuvre list or ask the catering lead or a chef. Everyone should be familiarizing themselves with the menu and the drinks whenever they get the BEO via email before the event. However, if something happens and you don't get that, just go ahead and get in touch with your lead at the event, and they can show you the menu and explain it to you along with the drinks. Just a few tips when passing hors d'oeuvres. You want to make eye contact with the guest, have good posture, stand up straight, and announce what you're serving. You also want to always carry fan napkins when you're passing hors d'oeuvres like this. Does everyone in here know how to fan napkins? I know it can be tricky sometimes. If you don't, take a small stack. You don't want to do anything too much larger than this because it'll only get a small section at a time. So in sections, you want to just with a twisting motion, put your fist into it. This can also be done with a soda can. I've heard various ways, but this is how I do it, and it seems to work. Sometimes if you crinkle the top one with your fist, I'll just remove it and discard the top napkin. So back to when you are serving, you want to make sure that you have your platter. You can hold it either like this is how I prefer to do it, but if you're more comfortable and get more balance like this is fine as well. So have your hors d'oeuvres in one hand, and your fan napkins in another, and approach your guest with good posture, eye contact, and a smile. Say, good evening, can I interest you in a dill cheese puff?
I don't know, what's in it?
It's fresh dill cream cheese wrapped in warm puff pastry.
Oh sure, I'll just take them all.
All right. She's obnoxious. Okay, so another reason why it's good to read that BEO and familiarize yourself with the menu is if you see something and you don't know what's in it or you haven't asked before, you definitely want to ask a lead, particularly because allergies. When you have an allergy alert, if a dish contains shellfish or a nut, be sure to mention the ingredient when you're presenting the dish. Immediately inform the catering lead in the case of any allergy. When a guest inquires about a specific dish, politely tell the guest that we need to check with the catering lead to be certain that the food will be safe. In all cases, the catering lead will make the final decision. Please don't ever just assume the ingredients in a dish. Always double check with the lead. We're more than happy to let you know and take the time to discuss that with you. When you're passing, especially hot appetizers or hors d'oeuvres, circulate a few times until they're gone. We are kind of starting a new thing where we're not reheating in the back of the house. In the past, I know we've done that before. If you come back in the kitchen with warm appetizers that didn't that didn't get taken, we would reheat them. But we're not going to do that. We've realized it kind of jeopardizes the taste and the quality of what we're serving. So we're going to keep as many as we can hot and just serve fewer at a time. So you're going to circulate a few times to try and get those to the guests. And also remember to smile during service. Like Holly was saying, you want to be warm and friendly and make the guests feel really comfortable. And this is a big one. You want to make every step count. When going to the kitchen for any reason, pick up empty glasses and discarded plates or anything that you can on the way. You want to conserve your steps. Not only will it save you time, but it'll save you energy, and it'll save your feet some pain too. So again, it just covers here, upright posture is essential at all times, and service staff should stand with their hands either collapsed behind their back or at their sides. Never crossed in front of them or in their pockets or anything like that. It also looks unprofessional. Be quick to assume any assigned duties and perform to the best of your ability. Whenever it comes to new members, which like I said, I see a lot of new faces here today, remember to help and mentor them. Check to see if they know who is supervising the function and who is in charge of the kitchen. Keep an eye out for the new service staff and instruct them as required during the event. If you recognize a new face, introduce yourself and let them know that they have any questions that they can come to you. Also, keep an eye on them to ensure that they're doing things the way that Hollyberry Catering does it, so that if not, you can tell a lead and we can correct them. But always come to a lead, don't try and address it yourself. That's what we're there for. Busing stations. This is also especially important when we have a large event with a ton of rentals. Anyone who's worked with Hollyberry for a while knows that it can get really chaotic in back of house when we have boxes and bins of what plates came in and glassware and 4 different kinds of forks and knives and dressing bowls, and so it can get really confusing and chaotic if we don't take some certain steps to stay organized. So whenever we get there, we want to always set up the busing area in a spot that's not visible to the guests. Ideal areas are laundry or utility rooms at residences, basements, garages, or loading docks. Busing to a garage or other area adjacent to a lane or dock can help speed up the strike because of proximity to the vehicles. This will also save you some energy if you can make it closer to your vehicle somewhere in the house, save you some steps. There's usually not a lot of space for busing, and flow is important. Visualize how the chosen space that you have will work. Fill glass racks from the back to the front to efficiently fill the racks. Move only full racks to the area designated for dirty glassware. Place used glasses upright in the racks to avoid drips and spilling. Empty glasses into black slop buckets before returning to racks. Let's see. If you're working back of house, it's especially important that you know how to set up a bus station. So some of the items in the busing station setup are, if you have glassware, glass racks, if you have plates, plate crates, cutlery, bus pan, slop bucket. You want to have a strainer in your slop bucket so it can catch those bar garnishes like lemons and straws and things like that, so that they don't get clogged up in someone's garbage disposal. You can just throw them directly into a trash can. Garbage can with bag, broken glass pail is important. Designated area for full dirty glassware racks and plate tubs. Have a spot that everyone is aware of. Whenever a bin or a glass rack fills up, you can get it out of the way and help the flow a little bit better, and move it away out of the way. Glass racks should be in the same area as the slop buckets, obviously, and plate crates and cutlery bus pans should be with the compost bucket and garbage can. In a home, always put down bags on the floor underneath the racks to prevent damage. This is especially important in homes because you're going to be working on a lot of finished flooring or carpet. So make sure that you have something underneath the glass rack that will protect the floor from any spills. I actually prefer to always just set these kind of like bus stations up in their garage or in their utility room or even their kitchen. I don't really like to, sometimes we'll have a bar in a living room, and I don't like to have the glass racks and stuff like that right next to my bar. I'll keep it off in the kitchen somewhere where I'm not at risk of damaging their floors. Front of house servers and bussers, some important things to remember when you're bringing dirty dishes back to the bus station and the kitchen. Number one, never bring dirty dishes back to the bus station and then just set them down and walk away. Number two, always scrape plates into the trash can and dump glasses and liquids into the slop bucket. And number three, always put glassware, utensils, and plates in their appropriate container. This helps save us time at the end of the night if we just do it right the first time whenever we have it in our hand. It saves us a lot of work at the end. It's already done for us. Let's see. I'm just going to touch on one thing with the coffee station setup. I think Erin pretty much covered most of it. Just be prepared to keep the station tidy and replenished throughout the event. It's everyone's job to tidy up any messes on any bar, whether it be a buffet, station, or the coffee bar. If you see that the coffee bar needs a boost, stop and take the time to do so. If you can't for some reason, just finish what you're doing and come back to it, or tell someone else who may have some time to do it right then. And a couple of just random, in regards to keeping the back of house organized. So I realize it can get crazy in the back of the house, it can get cluttered, and sometimes it's difficult to locate items that you're looking for, and that's why it's important to put things back where you got them and to eliminate items from the prep and platter space that aren't in use. Always eliminate any trash that you can and clean up after yourself. You may have noticed that we wrap our porcelain and glass containers in bubble wrap so that they don't break in transport. However, we still seem to be losing a lot of our breakables. A couple of ways to avoid these are, if you unwrap a breakable platter, save the bubble wrap so that we can use it to protect the items on the trip back. If you are packing them, always wrap the porcelain and glassware in bubble wrap. Be careful when carrying and handling boxes of breakables. Don't rush when washing them. If you do accidentally break something, it's okay, and accidents happen. Just let a lead know so that we know that we need to replace it. And also, we do have a new storage area for those of you who come back at the end of the night and unload, or if you're packing for an event. There's a new storage area in the warehouse, and if you want to check it out after the meeting, you can. But that's where we're keeping all of the breakable porcelain and glass items. Let's see. If you have a suggestion, don't contradict the instructions from your catering leader manager. We encourage and appreciate input and are always open to suggestions for improving food, presentation, or service. Please make these suggestions to your catering lead after the event or during a non-event busy time so that we can take time to write it down for consideration. At the end of every single event, the leads have kind of like a post-evaluation form. And one of the things on there, are there any suggestions for improvement to food or execution in any way of the event? So if you have a suggestion, either write it down and hand it to us or just talk to us after the event. And we completely welcome any suggestions at all. And finally, I know that these events can get kind of busy and crazy at times, but we always must stay composed and calm no matter, how stressful the situation is. And everyone should have a sense of urgency, but never show panic. If you become overwhelmed or have a personal issue, just communicate that to the lead, and we can go ahead. You can take a few minutes to get yourself composed and step out or take care of whatever personal issue you need to. So that's all I have. Any questions?
Good job.
Thanks.
So are you guys going to be having these lists like at the end of events? So, like, you want us to like fill them out every event?
No, we fill them out.
You guys
Yeah, I'm just making you aware of that so that if you do have a suggestion after an event, I'll fill that in with whatever your suggestion was or any of the other leads. Alrighty, I'll turn it back to Erin.
Yeah. Hi, my name's Valerie. No, I'm just standing in for Valerie.
I say soda in case we need to mix some.
I will not be mixing any drinks today, but I will be talking about the bar. As you guys may or may not know, if you know Valerie, you know that her specialty is the bar. She Before she got promoted into her current role, she was our main bartender. So she's very skilled at the bar, and thank you. And she's really good at the bar stuff. But now that she is in her new role, one of her main responsibilities is overseeing the prep that goes on in the Hollyberry kitchen. And with that, she oversees food cost, and she oversees the amount of hours it takes to prep for an event. And we're talking, you know, prior to an event, prior to leaving the Hollyberry kitchen. So this here is the new and improved Hollyberry recipe book. If you are ever asked to come here and prep, the recipes are all in here. They are all accurate measurements. They're you know, also in our new system, our computer system, Catered, so you can access them there, you can access them here. But the most important thing about the new and improved Hollyberry recipe book is that there are times associated with producing these items. Now, we have, you know, as we continue to grow and as we continue to do these recipes more and more, we'll become more efficient at them, meaning that it will take less time for us to do them. There are times written on each recipe for how long it should take you to complete an item that are given. Most of these recipes are either in 2 dozen increments or 1 dozen increments, and each event is different, you know, as far as the quantities that you'll have to produce. But there will be a time associated with the amount, so our goal is to strive to always complete the items in the amount of time that the recipe states. So just keep that in mind if you're ever here for event prep. You know, we are tracking hours so that we can watch as we become more efficient. So keep that in mind when you're prepping at Hollyberry. And as for bartending, there's just 2 really quick notes I want to mention. If you are a current bartender, or, well, hopefully if you're already a current bartender, this isn't an issue, but it's Missouri law and Hollyberry rule that every bartender has gone through the SMART training, which is an online training course that you go through that certifies you to serve alcohol in the state of Missouri. So if you have not been through that course, you need to sign up for it. If you are not currently a bartender, but you are interested in being a bartender, sign your name up on this list. I'm going to bring it over here and pass it around with a pen so that you can sign up to take that course.
It's a 2-year certification. If
Yeah.
you've done it, that's how long, so you probably have about a year left.
Oh, okay. So there you go. 2 year, good for 2 years. And this is just anybody who needs the certification. So if you want to take the course in hopes of maybe being trained into being a bartender, sign up for it. It's not going to hurt for you to have the knowledge. Yes.
Can we be called mixologists?
I don't think it costs anything.
We
No.
send you a password and you go online and you take it.
Yeah, we ask for your email because we'll have a link and we'll email you the link, and then you just
You know, I'm a certification freak, so if I can get another certification, why not?
right. And then another quick note, which this is one of those common sense things, but just in case, we wrote it down in the manual anyway. Consumption of alcohol or drugs at work is absolutely unacceptable. So please do not come to work drunk or high, and or do not drink at work. Thank you very much. Sorry.
There's a reason we're saying that. You can drink after the event, just not.
Yeah, and it's grounds for like immediate termination, as in you're never coming back to work any other event at Hollyberry, so just don't do it.
0 tolerance.
0 tolerance, there you go. Okay, so now I'm going to go over the typical bar setup. This is generally what a bar will look like at a Hollyberry event. You'll have, you know, on your front bar, you'll generally display the beers that you have to offer. This is our standard bar that Valerie has set up for us. So you'll come with Budweiser, Bud Light, and Bud Select. Generally, your beer will be cooled down in we have these big white coolers. You just want to make sure that you section off the beer so that when you're, you know, going to grab it, you know, based on what section, what you're grabbing for your guest. We also have these colored tubs that I'm not going to touch to my pants today because they are dirty. But if you have extra beer that you need to cool in here, you can use these as well. So it's really important that when you arrive at an event as a bartender, that the very first thing you do is unpack and cool your beer down and cool down your white wine. It takes 45 minutes to an hour to get it to the appropriate temperature, so you need to keep that in mind to make sure that everything's cool and good for service. We generally display our wine on the front bar like this, with our red wine here and then our white wine in the cooler. This would have ice in it. These silver tubs generally tend to leak, so we are going to start lining them either with napkins, kind of like this. This would be our clean ice tub. You would get your clean ice from this tub. And then you could also line this with napkins, or if napkins aren't available for that, you know, we could put like a clear plastic bag in the bottom just to keep that from leaking. The bartender always has a bottle opener, if applicable, and a wine key to open as you go. The rule of thumb with most events is not to open more than 1 or 2 bottles at a time, because once a bottle is open, it will go bad within 1 to 2 days after it's opened, and then we can't reserve it, and it's just a waste. So make sure that you only open 1 to 2, maybe 3, depending on the size of the event. Which, if you know you don't feel comfortable making that call, just talk to your lead with how many bottles of wine you should open at a time. You know, the typical mixers that we have at our bar are Tonic Club, orange juice, and cranberry juice, which we will provide drink canisters for. If you like to use them, if you don't like to use them, you know, feel free to just use it right out of the jug. It's up to you. Pitchers, in case you may need to refill.
They always need to be in a canister or a pitcher.
Huh?
They should never be served out of the jug.
Right.
They need to be in some kind of either those or the juice dispensers.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Juice dispensers only. Don't serve it out of the jug. Your alcohol will be, this isn't exactly correct because this is a little, this one shouldn't be here. But this is for a premium bar here. You've got all of your liquors lined up in an organized fashion, and then you will, when you get to the event, the open liquor will have these pour spouts in them, and all of these would have pour spouts in them, so it's easy. Yeah, and do not throw away the caps, because you might need to close it up at the end of the night, so just keep those in a little cup. Generally, when we go to events, we bring several of these silver cups, which you can use for these stir straws, as well as for your extra caps, so you can just keep them handy, maybe some corks if you need to. So that's that. And then you always want to make sure that you have beverage napkins to serve with your guests. Also, we'll usually have a bar garnish tray as well that includes lemons, limes, maraschino cherries, and olives for garnishing, you know, drinks appropriately. Glasses are always stored face down on the bar, just like this. You have wine, and then your typical all-purpose glass for, you know, your scotch on the rocks, or well, we have rocks glasses for that, or I guess your typical vodka tonic or what have you. So those are the different glasses that we normally have at the bar. I mean, that's pretty much it. Do you have any bar-related questions?
Is there a rule on how much wine you pour?
4 ounces.
Question, yes. I've been trying to put in, and I will get an extra one here in the next week or so, a measuring cup. I will say 4 ounces, because we don't always use the same glass. One time it'll be a tumbler, sometimes it'll be a wine glass, sometimes it'll be just these. So you can pre-pour one just to eyeball what it should look like, and then you're good to go.
Yeah.
So that will be in our new bar kit.
Okay.
There you go. There's that. Any other questions?
Did a good job answering.
Yes.
If you are actually working the bar, sorry, we do take very, you know, serious bar inventory afterwards, because we come back and we actually job cost every single event that we do, so we know how much profit we get in all the different areas, and the bar is, as we all know, an area that's super important to track that. So just be aware that even if you're not normally working the bar, or your bar back or something like that, just ask your lead bartender or your lead how they're keeping track of the inventory for that evening.
Right.
So anything extra that you guys have always comes back to Hollyberry? It's not like the guest pays like a flat rate and
We
they
don't
keep
have a
whatever
license
extra? Okay.
to leave liquor with them, so we have to bring them.
Sometimes they donate it. I went to an event before where we donated a bunch of cheese and fruit.
Yeah, but that's not liquor. Liquor is a totally different animal.
Well, yeah, okay.
Totally different animal.
Yeah,
Like leaving leftovers with the client is at the discretion of the lead. because if there is a situation where the food's not been held, once it's reached the temperature point where it's not particularly safe to hold it any longer, then, we can't give that to the client. So if there's a situation where, we give, certain food to the client, we can do that, but, that's your lead, up to your lead. So you don't ever have to worry about that. Any questions? No?
Are there any bar events where you charge? Is it like
Yes.
cash bar?
Yeah,
Is that the same for us for?
Yes, absolutely. It's always the same portions we would give at an open bar, but the difference is that you will have to get, we have a standard amount which we would go over with the bartender at that event, and they'll have it handy, so it's not like they'll forget what each thing costs. And usually we have a method in which for them to keep track of if they sold a liquor or if they've sold a beer or however that works. We have a method for them to keep track of that. Okay.
I'll add one other thing before I close up about the bar, and that is our policy is no tip jars. I'm not sure if that does say it in here. Very rarely do you see a caterer put out a tip jar anymore. It's kind of a faux pas in the industry now. If there's somebody approaches you, just even as a server or in general, just like, please, just like to give you something extra, just defer to your lead, let them talk to the lead, and they'll handle that. So anyway, that's how that works.
Last year, I think most of us went through that online bar.
Oh, we talked that through while you were out. Yeah. Okay, just a couple things. The tape's about to run out, so a couple more things before you go. Putting items back, I know they touched a little bit about when you come back, and some of you are, the late shift, some of you the early shift, but if you are coming back to put things up, Michael's another great reference if you have questions about where things go. He's not always here at the end of the event, but even if you have specific questions as you kind of see things in the warehouse, but your lead will let you know where to put things back up and how to do so. But one thing that is just kind of one of my pet peeves, and probably yours too, if you're ever unpacking, and you find a chafing dish that still has water in it or whatever else, is not only should they be clean, but they should be dry. And that's so important because it's so easy for bacteria and things to grow if you do not put them back completely dry and clean. Let's see, these are sort of random here. We talked about inventory. Also recycling. Someone mentioned recycling, and we kind of had it touched on. In this manual, we're kind of, recycle if you can at the event. They don't always have that ability to do so. We're not always, I guess, at liberty to put out our recycling bin. We would like to, but that's not always the case. But here at Hollyberry, we do recycle as much as we possibly can. I don't know if you've recognized the new bins in the kitchen. We use Blue Skies, and we do all composting. We compost all of our food and paper in the yellow bins, and then the blue bins are for aluminum and glass and plastic. The only things really, if you're prepping in the kitchen, that are not recyclable are your gloves and cutlery, if you happen to have a little snack while you're here or eat a salad or something like that. But everything else is pretty much recyclable, so it's pretty exciting. We've gone from 2 giant trash containers outside to 1 little bitty one, so it's really great. Okay, so that's recycling at the event. Again, ask your lead, they'll know the requirements. And I think that is it, with the exception of the manual itself. Has a lot more detail. I know we've covered a lot today. Hopefully you guys got a refresher. I know some things are old news, but some hopefully were new. But please read this front to back, and then you'll sign this very back sheet, and you can fax it. I'm going to give you the fax number now because I think it'd be easier just for you to read it, turn it in, because you have to have this sheet turned in by the time you work your next event anyway. So it is, do you guys have pens? Okay.
Wait.
It's 963-1303.
Yeah.
And if you don't remember, you can sit here and read it and sign it and turn it in if you want right here. 963-1303. If you forget, I didn't put it on the front for some reason, but the phone number's on the front, you call and ask. So please read this. We're so excited about just kind of entering into the new level. We plan to do these a couple times a year, and also if you want specific trainings in different areas, we will have those available as well. So any other questions? All right, well, thank you very much for coming. We appreciate it. You guys have a good afternoon.
Be sure to get everybody their shirts so they can try them on to make sure they fit
Yes.
before we send them off to get logos.